Hello, 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 and good evening. Welcome to this week's edition of Sisters of Legacy. We're going to run our intro and we'll be right back.
Welcome to the Sisters of Legacy. They are building a community through great conversation. They are speaking truth. They are speaking life. It's time to do more. Join us each week. Welcome to the Sisters of Legacy.
No sound.
I don't know.
Hear
I
you.
hear you now.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah, we can hear you now. Can you hear us? Oh wait,
She
now
going to
you-
hear
you're
you.
going in and out.
Nope. No, ma'am.
You'll be right back. Okay, we're gonna just wait right here. Oh, keep going. Okay. Um, so our topic tonight is, does the definition of a word or a thing change over or with time? So we can kind of get started with that topic. I don't know what the motivation was. Usually, Sam gives us an introduction of what her motivation was behind her thought process or patterns for the question. But the topic is scrolling down there at the bottom. Thank you. Is it Lisa? She says it every week, for joining us and for sharing. Does the definition of a word or thing change with or over time? So I'm going to throw this at Trina and see what you think about definitions and words and things.
Um, I think when I first saw the topic, my first thought was like certain words back in the day that meant something, and then now I guess either between slang or whatever, now they mean something else. So I guess one of the first things I thought of was like the word gay, which used to mean happy. We'll have a gay old time. But now it don't mean that at all. Like if you say that, nobody's gonna think you thinking of happy thoughts.
Right.
Um Also like
Can you hear me?
yes, yes.
Okay.
All right, go. We're gonna throw it right on back to Sam.
Okay, so thank you ladies for keeping rolling. So my motivation, I heard Shanetta say she wasn't sure what my motivation was. So um just kind of everything. Just everything that's happening, in the media, in the news. I mean, from everything that's happening with Israel and Palestine. I know like years ago, you had the president that said always stand with Israel, and then now when you think of Israel as a 2023, it's a whole nother generation of people. A lot of people aren't born there, they're not from there. So you got a whole different group of people. And so, does that thing still stand? Should we still be standing with them? Just like, or when you're thinking about now how people try to redefine what a marriage is. Now you got the poly thing where there's however many people you feel like, you can add, lions and tigers and bears, anything to a relationship, or just the definition of a relationship, or how we define friends, like everybody's a friend, everybody's a BFF. It just kind of got me to thinking like, over time, have we redefined these words? And if so, should we have? Like, should some of these things have been redefined? Or is it like one of those things where we should define some of these things, for ourselves? It's almost like being a heterosexual couple is, like now we're in the minority. Just a regular marriage or a regular couple with just two people, of the opposite sex, now it's like, that's it. Like, it's like it's not a like, I don't know. It's like, it's the minority, like it's the unpopular thing. And I'm just trying to figure out, like, what happened to the way things were defined. Like, was everything really wrong that we just, throw out the baby with the bathwater? Like, did we really need to redefine these words? Or is this just, everybody going with society because society says it's okay, so we're just going to jump on the bandwagon? So that's kind of what my thought process was, to just kind of go from topic to topic, really thinking about, how some of these things are defined or lived out in real time these days. So we can start with an easy one. Like, let's just talk about BFFs. You hear that everywhere. That's my BFF, and the long term is, your best friend. But now it's like everybody you meet, is like a BFF. Like, what happened to that meaning something? Like, what happened to, I guess, for lack of a better term, like the sanctity of that relationship? What a BFF you really started out meaning. Like, what's happened to that?
I'll jump in here and say that as I listen to you kind of explain the rationale behind it, and listen to what Trina started off with talking about slang terms and how like they change over time. The 8th grade language arts teacher in me is like right there, right? So one of the things that I'm currently teaching, and like we teach it all year, is denotation and connotation.
Okay.
So denotation is the dictionary definition of words. Like, words may have multiple words may have multiple meanings, but words that are different may have the same meaning. So like, you could say something multiple different ways, but it's the same thing. It has the same meaning. Essentially, like, I could say that something is tiny and that something is small. It means the same thing. Tiny and small have the same meaning, but the connotation behind it is the feeling that we get, the emotion that we get behind the word. So is it positive? Is it negative? Is it neutral? So when I think about the definition or words changing over time, what I think about is that we assign in society, not us in particular, but as a society, we assign different emotion to words based on how we use them or how we hear them. So when you hear a new song and the new song says that, this is going to date me probably with anybody young watching us, but if they say, oh, that's off the chain, or oh, it's off the hook. Like, I don't know which one is right anymore. Bishop does that all the time when he's talking to, and it'd be like, I don't think either one of them is right anymore. I'm not really sure what the term would be at this point, like to say, oh, that was fire. But when I say something is fire, the kids be like, you can't pronounce it like that. You got to say it's fire. Like, you can't say that was fire because then it doesn't have the same meaning behind it. So I think that society kind of contributes to the meanings behind words, and a rap artist, a singer could say something in a song, give it a new meaning, and then it changes the meaning for the entire world that understands what's going on. Or somebody on television could say something, or just something, because things spread so fast now. I think that time has changed the way some words are used and the way some things are done. And that's how we end up in the category of being called old school or old fashioned or any of those type of things, because we're looking like, well, that doesn't make sense. Well, back in my day, young man, this is how, it used to be. And the kids are like, yep. And that's what just kind of sets you in that box of, you are the new old people now. So I think that time does change stuff, But I think that when you're from a different school of thought, that you understand the way it was and the way things should be, and that there's still a need for a certain amount of teaching of the old to
Okay.
the current generations.
Okay. Vanessa?
Yeah, for me though, like that whole BFF, like I meet people or I'll be around for a certain amount of time and like, oh, that's my friend. Nah, that's not what this is. We cool or whatever, I'm getting to know you. But like I actually had this conversation with somebody a few weeks ago, and somebody for like maybe 3 months, 6 months. Like to me, I'm still getting to know you. You're not my friend. You cool. You might should think a little highly of yourself because I'm talking to you more than I talk to everybody else. But to say that you're my friend, like for me, that means something. Like, because I was saying, like, well, my friends, they got my back. If we go out somewhere and I ain't got it and they got it, I got it. We all eat in.
Right.
They may take me out to eat. They may pay for me to get my hair done. It don't have to be I have to pay them back. Like, they take on a different category that's almost like family. So for me to just meet somebody or hang out with you a little bit and you be like, oh, that's my BF, and nah, that's can you let me get like you hold, so for me, like these are the kind of conversations that I'm having with people about different things. And for me, like I just feel like in today's time, we've allowed so many outside factors to change what we think personally. And something else I really thought about was like, we all grew up in a church. So, they taught hellfire and brimstone and hope was right. That was it.
That's
but
it.
As I grew up, for me personally, as I grew up, and as I began to develop my own personal relationship with God, although holiness is still right, like there were some things that I could give a little more on than, they said, okay, when we was growing up, you know what I'm saying? Like, you had to wear skirts to church and, and that's just like a simple, small example. But, if you didn't wear a skirt and some stockings and a slip and all this here, you was nasty with the devil and Jezebel was your best friend.
Right.
But now, you're able to understand, okay, so now I'm having a conversation with my mom, like, yeah, I get you think that young man should take his hat off when he walk into the sanctuary because that is a form of reverence. But for him, maybe he just don't know better because he just came off the street and he came in here and there may be some education needed as opposed to just saying what we think or how we view things as law. So I think in times changing, there still needs to be some balance and a precedent set. And when we have those discussions, it makes it so much better. Like I went to a church for years and they was like, don't open your legs up to anybody and blah, blah. Like that don't help me understand how, I may get to some other situations, that imaginary tablet or whatever it was I was supposed to be doing with my knees. Like, so I just think that, there is decency and order, but we have to also develop some balance or better understanding or meaning. Because like even growing up, it was like, oh, you do what I say, not what I do. Well, that's really not gonna help a whole lot, So for me, I think it's just a matter of trying to find a balance sometimes because everything we were taught doesn't apply to our life, like even with raising our own children. You know what I'm saying? Like our perspective of my parents did this when I was a kid. I'm not going to do that to my kids when I have mine. That doesn't necessarily say that what it was in that time was wrong. It just may not be right for you. So, some of those things, I don't know. I said a whole lot.
Well, no, so a couple of things. So I totally agree with what you were saying. Like, I think back to like my sisters, like they had friends, they meet people, we live here, they make friends, whatever. And then, they had kids and their friends, like their kids could call their friends auntie. And that just did something to my inside parts because I felt like auntie, like you know, that my sisters, you know, are my kids' aunties. Like, you know, you can show respect and whatever, but I felt like that title meant something. And for them, it was just like, oh, well, that's my friend, you know, whatever, whatever, you know, even to the point where like maybe now they don't even talk to these people, but you know, like it was like just give them a title. And I really felt some type of way, you know, about that. Like even so much like when I had kids, my kids don't call anybody auntie. Like you, Mary better be your mama. Like that's it. Like you know, those are your aunties. Like everybody else, you know, those are mommy's friends. You know, you could trust this person. You know, like stuff like that. But I've always been really careful with, you know, giving people assigning stuff that I feel like people haven't earned. You know, I heard you talking about like, you know, you meet people and instantly, you know, now you my BFF. And it's like, oh, can we, you know, let's back it up a little bit because like you said, you know, BFF to me, like that's an earned title. You know what I'm saying? Like that's one of those things where we've kind of been through it together. Like whatever it is, like you know, we've endured something. We've seen some seasons together. You know, highs, lows, and everything in between. But people are quick to throw that around. And but I also realize like as quick as they throw it, like you know, in 6 months, oh, I don't mess with her like that no more. You know what I'm saying? It's over just that fast. Like just as fast as I give it to you, you know, like I've taken it back. And so like I think about it and I'm just like, yeah, we're assigning things in the wrong spaces. And I guess it could be like society or whatever, and I think about, you know, what you said about balance. So does that mean, so should the elders be more vocal? Because I feel like the elders are like, oh, y'all young kids is too much. Y'all can have it. I'm going and sit down. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not like the elders are like, okay, well, I can see that, but have you thought about this? You know, just providing another perspective. It's just like, oh, we're gonna let that generation have it because y'all, whatever. You know, like, so should the elders be more vocal? And I don't mean like overbearing. I don't mean like, oh, you're just wrong. You know, I mean just kind of offering different perspectives or saying, hey, you know, this used to mean something. You know what I mean? Like you were saying about your mom with coming to church, you know, with a hat on in a sanctuary. You know, something simple as saying, you know, um, hey, you know, we try to practice reverence for God, you know, and not having your hat on as opposed to take that hat off, boy. You know what I'm saying? Like, so as the elders, should we be offering our perspectives more? Should we be, I don't know, holding up a standard somewhere?
I think the answer to that is yes. But I also think that there are some things that have kind of like an exclusivity to maybe within the family or maybe within like certain types of communities. I was talking to a kiddo at school this week actually, and I'm doing this project with her, so I was like trying to get to know her. So I was like, tell me something about you, tell me something about your family. And when she began to describe the expectations and the things that her family has kind of laid the foundation for her, I realized immediately, and she's from a different culture, but I immediately realized that her family puts in the work to build the traditional background of their family. And even they've done it so much so that she doesn't even feel weird not doing what other kids do, because she's looking at the other kids like, what you're doing is weird. Right. What my family does, this is normal. Right. So she said something that just kind of jumped out at me. She was like, I'm not allowed to have social media. And I was just kind of like, whoa, an 8th grader without social media? Like, that's almost unheard of, because like these kids are on everything. She was like, my family doesn't do that. I'm not allowed to make less than an 80 in any of my classes, but I know that an 80 is still even low. So like I strive for straight A's. Like so I'm like really impressed at the values and the traditionalism that her family has put in place for her, because it gives her a standard to live by. It gives her, even when other kids are doing all the other things, she has this standard that she's like, this is more valuable to me than, that thing over there. So considering that, I think that it's important that within families that we establish those types of roles where we're kind of like, setting up what we expect and what the expectations are, and the traditional things or customs that we need and our kids need for us to kind of put in them. So I think that's super important.
Right. Trina, did you want to say something?
I thought about what Vanessa was saying about as far as how we grew up in that modesty has a different definition. That's one of the words I think that has a different meaning attached to it now. I know for sure, like the things that we would get in trouble for now, it's like it's regular. Like even just let me just say, like the tightness of clothing that's okay to wear to church now would have gotten a whole tongue lashing, and you would have been assigned, like you said, Jezebelness
and slathered with oil.
Right.
Yeah,
so it's like
prayer cloth all Sunday that covered up your knees, your back.
Right. So that's something else that the definition of that word has changed so much. And it's like it's not something to where, like you were saying that, Sam, you were saying that should the older generation come and say, but it's like I feel like it's not even something that, I don't know, it's like changed so much. It's like I went to an event, and at this event I was just like, I don't know, I felt so old because I was dressed nice, cute, but I saw some other outfits that like showed every nook, cranny,
everything,
and everything was moving and jiggling underneath. And I was just like, and then there was a walk that made it do more jiggling, and I was just like, and I said, well, I didn't know how to react, because I was just like, well, maybe, like, am I just old fashioned? And I said, well, it's like, is it just what the young people do now? And am I now in that role to where like the young people over? I felt really old because I felt like, I don't know if I be, I don't want to condemn anybody, but I felt like it was too much. But then, I guess the word and the meaning behind modesty has changed a lot. Definitely changed a lot. And what you were saying about aunties, it's like nowadays that word just means an older woman.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And even like, there were certain, I guess, celebrities who didn't want that title or whatever. And some people thought it was, oh, I've reached auntie status. And I guess there's some people like in church, it's like, oh, I'm a mother now. I'm the mother. I can wear my shawl. I can pat people. I don't know, because certain, like us coming up, the word mother in the church, she was older and she had dementia. But now, you have other younger people who were, now they're the district missionary and they're much younger and, have a different look than what we grew up with. And so that, again, that definition, that image has changed. And, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with the district missionary,
being 12.
Okay. I mean, I get what you're saying. First of all, I don't think that that people even use the word modesty. I don't think the definition has changed. I think people don't use it at all. I yeah, I think there's no definition for people when it comes to
Oh.
modesty. I mean, even when you were here, you know, we went out that night and the lady came in and she was basically naked. And I mean, remember we saw all of it. Like I mean, unfortunately so. Like, and that's not even looking. I mean, it was just everywhere, all over. And like, you know, when I see things like that, I be thinking, like, I don't even have that thought. Am I old? I have the thought of
Who raised you?
like, I just make better decisions. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because to me, and maybe this is a part of just being older. Like, you know, sometimes when I go out with my husband, okay, you know, my neckline might ease a little bit, you know, into one of those, you know, whatever. But that's it. That's all I got. That's all, you know, like that's as far, you know, as I'm willing to go like in public, because I feel like some things again should, like, there should be some sanctity. There should be some privacy. I don't even think that he would be fine with, you know, something where my cheeks is out and, you know, like that's excessive. And to me, it's excessive. And I feel like, you know, too much of anything can be a bad thing. So like, and it doesn't, even if you drink too much water, like that could be bad for you. So there's nothing that shouldn't be done, you know, with some considerations. And I think, like, you know, now there's no consideration. It's just like, I'm old enough, you know, to do whatever I want. And they just do it, you know, and even, go ahead.
I think that the modesty word came to mind because I was at a church event. You know what I mean? And
Okay.
so there was an expectation in my mind
Right.
of a level of some sort of modesty.
Right.
But I guess, you know, I was trying to balance it in my mind, like, oh, okay, it's 2023. I guess that's not a thing, even at the church house.
And that kind of goes back to what I'm saying about what exactly is the balance of kind of like where we are with things, because like I was saying, like holiness is still right. So however, you know, you want to choose to let some things be or some things not be, that doesn't change, you know what I'm saying, the basic standard of, like you said, of like modesty, you know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of things can be up for discussion. We can discuss certain things. And then I also feel like, you know, like we was talking about, you know, what you wear in a church. I don't need somebody to maybe, you know, beat me in the head with the Bible and say you should wear A, B, C, and D, because I also feel like you can talk to me and we can have a conversation and say, you know, this is why we may feel that, you know, you should do this, or, you know, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. Have that conversation, or some expectations for certain areas should be set, you know what I'm saying, when it comes to any kind of form, in my personal opinion, because I don't know. And then, like you say, it's like, oh, well, I don't know, maybe, you know, maybe because this is the new, you know, day and age. But like I said, I mean, to me, like I remember like Yolanda Adams, even back in the day, you know, like growing up, you was like, oh, she that dress was a little that was a little foreign fitting, don't you think? You seen her when she wore, you know what I'm saying? Like it was just little things that we was like, okay, well, you know, I mean, it wasn't super real, it was kind of, you know, shapely or whatever. But then you like, oh, so like we go back to the night we out, and I, you know, I'm seeing, you know, cheeks and skin and all sort of things that maybe would have been a little more appropriate for the beach. But you know, it's just like, so where, you know, like there's no real boundaries. Like growing up, you had a friend or somebody you knew, and then all of a sudden you'd be like, oh, where's so and so? Or they went down south. She's pregnant. She can't be here. You know, like, you know, all of a sudden then they come back months later, you know, or something like that. Like now, 14, 15-year-olds, mothers is happy that they finna be a grandma. Yeah, my 15. What? Like, you don't want to shame them because maybe that was a mistake. I don't know. But if you're doing, grown people stuff, whatever. But
I'm shaming your mama.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't necessarily not say I can't be a proud grandma because I am a grandma and, children are a blessing from God. It's what they say. And then it's like, but she's a minor. And so, you know what I'm saying? It's like boundaries and like, I don't know. Like, it's some things you just be like, okay, how do you even be okay? Like, when I got pregnant and I was singing and the praise team, and they was like, yeah, so what you're not gonna do? And they didn't say it like that, but it was like, yeah, what you're not gonna do is sing with that belly, and you ain't got no husband. We just, it's not gonna happen. You know what I'm saying? And of course, like I said, it wasn't said like that, but so this is, this is what's right. This is our standard, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And I had to respect that, and I had to honor, what they put before me, and I had to be okay with it. You know what I'm saying? I didn't feel condemned to say that I'll never go to church again or, whatever, but you got to set some standards, like they said, if you don't stand for something, you fall for everything, whatever it is, so it's like somebody use some discernment and kind of, because I feel like a lot is just get lost.
Well, I mean, I think about, like last week when I wasn't on, I was at the kids' school. I was in the middle school, mind you, middle school. So middle school is, the oldest kid is maybe 14. You be talking 6, 7, huh?
Sometimes.
Oh, well, okay. Good point. Well, this little girl, she looked like she may have been like a 7th grader. So this is the room is full with parents and kids and administrators or whatever. She comes sit at the table I was sitting at, and I'm sitting there with AJ, and she comes sit down with her little friend, and she just go to cussing. I turned around and looked at her like, and AJ was like, Mom, and I was like, she better go find somewhere else to sit. Like, that's all I can. You can't sit here like this. And she looked, and then she was like, and then her friend was like, in this room with all these parents, and this is when you're gonna cuss. And then they got up and went somewhere else. But I was just like, you had all the administrators, you had all these parents. There was even a mariachi band in there. And she just like went to cussing. And my first response was, my son was like, Mom. And I was like, we can't, one of us is gonna move. So, and he was like, well, what if her parents is in here? Good, then I would like to talk to her parents. Because can you explain to me why this foul-mouthed child, like, I'm like, and for me, like, I was appalled. Like, my son, like, he talks all the time about the high schoolers and all they cussing, and that's all they do. And every other word is a cuss. And I'm not going to say I'm not going to say that I did cuss in high school. I'm going to say that if I did cuss in high school, then it would not have been in the presence of adults. Like, as a teenager, everybody has like, their little stuff that you do when you're not with your parents, little stuff you try to get away with or whatever. But there was always some level of respect, for older people. If for no other reason, then they was going to go back and tell your parents. You know what I'm saying? Like, there was always some kind of boundary. Like you said, growing up in the church, like, we definitely didn't agree with everything because, we couldn't go to the movies. We couldn't do this, Trina, me, you talked about that when you was here, like there was nothing. And of course, during the week, you might do some things that, the pastor said not to, or he didn't really agree with, but you have boundaries, like there were some things that you tried to stay away from. And it makes me think back to what you said, Shanetta, about the student in your school, about a foundation and having that traditional foundation. And I think back to us as parents, like everybody on here is a parent. And I guess like I have, well, no guess, like I have the youngest kids. And even now, like with my kids, it's a constant reminding. Like, if I let something slide, then, it's a slippery slope. They'll be down there just basking in foolishness. So, like I'm always like watching it. I'm always like, whatever. You said 8th grade with no social media. My son's in 10th grade. He don't have social media. Sorry, I don't care. I'll be the old-fashioned parent. I don't care. As long as I'm paying for the phones and the tablets and all of this, no. I just feel like it's enough that the internet is just so much. And so, like I'm so watchful. Like, and I'm probably over the top. I can admit that, but this is where we are and this is what we live with. But I think like if you don't build in those traditional, you call it traditional, old-fashioned, whatever, if you don't build in some kind of foundation for your children, or let's say, or your grandchildren, like whatever generation, that you have the most hands-on with, then I think we're going to see more of the things we see now, where there's no boundaries. There's nothing, there's no such thing as going too far. It's like, oh, that wasn't far enough. Let me go. You know what I'm saying? Like there's no turning back. I mean, like I saw an 11-year-old boy shot 2 kids after football practice, like in Florida, about last week, a week or 2 ago. He, after football practice, you see him walk into his parents' car. The boys are coming behind him. I don't know what happened, what went wrong. He reached in there, got, I'm guessing his mom's gun, because she was the one that grabbed the gun after he shot them. Turned around and shot them boys. He 11. What? And then you see her grabbing him and getting the gun. Like, what is happening in your household that your 11-year-old could possibly think that that's an acceptable action? So I really think like we need to go back to building some foundations with our kids, putting something in it. And maybe your kids are older and you missed it, and now you're a grandma. It ain't too late. Let's catch up with the next generation. What is it? Get in where you fit in.
I still think there's still an amount of raising your adult children that you do still, even. So like if you missed it, there's still things that still even need to be said. Like my youngest is 20, and there are still things that we find ourselves saying to all of the kids, regardless, because it's like, even though like you're an adult now, there are still experiences that I have had that you have not had. So I'm still going to give you my thoughts. I'm still going to give you my opinions. I'm still going to give you feedback because I'm raising adults now. So it just kind of is what it is. Like, I just don't think parenting ever stops. Right. I think that there are still things that our parents say to us, and there are still things that we need to say to our children. I think that a lot of people have gotten so caught up in the whole, like, parents that are raising kids now, they're trying so hard to give their kids what they didn't have. They're trying so hard to raise their kids differently than how they were raised, not realizing that some of the values that they were raised with are just as good today as they were yesterday.
Right.
And now your kids have no manners, and you don't even know how to teach them manners. And now they're 10 and they're answering you with what instead of like, and so then they carry that forth in school, and then they take it into the community, and then they take it out to these jobs that they start working when they turn 15 and 16. And you have places like Chick-fil-A having to teach people how to say my pleasure. And they're looking like, what I'm gonna say that for? Because they have never said thank you a day in their life for anything. And then you have like the whole Chick-fil-A experience getting messed up because somebody didn't raise their kids right. Had a bad Chick-fil-A experience.
Obviously.
However, I mean, I still think that so many people are just like so dead set on, I'm not going to do to my kids what my parents did to me. I'm going to let my kids have more freedom. I'm going to let my kids make more decisions. And what are you doing? Letting them raise themselves? Like, they're just out here living and like surviving, and you're leaving it up to so many other people to teach them manners and respect and decorum and appropriate behavior. And now we got, you know, kids that's running around I mean, I hear cussing all day long in the middle school, right?
Yeah.
And literally the look on my face is like mortified at times, because I'm just like, you're too young for this. And I get it. Like, we used to, you know, try to slip in our little words. And most of the time, I think when I was in like middle school, when I tried to cuss, I couldn't, like, I was saying stuff all wrong. And a person who knew how to cuss the right way would be like, yeah, don't do that no more. It don't even sound right. Like, you can't do that. And that's because it wasn't an everyday practice. These kids can cuss better than some adults, and they be out here, and I'll be like, whoa, like, hey, you can't say stuff like that. But it's like, they're just like, parents are just letting kids do whatever. And then you say stuff like that in front of your parents. And some of them will go as far as being like, yeah, I talk like this in front of my parents. Well, let me tell you something. Because I don't even say, would you do that in front of your parents? I literally say, I don't care what you do with your parents, what you're not going to do here, what you're not going to do with me. Because a lot of times these kids will come with, yeah, I do that in front of my parents. Like, what? My parents cuss, we all cuss. Everybody cussing. You see TikTok videos where people are giggling and laughing with these like 2 and 3-year-old kids cussing and saying stuff. And it's like, that's not cute. That's not funny. Because if they're doing that now, come on, 15 years from now, what are they going to be doing?
Listen, I totally agree. So since Mother Norris, I don't know if she's still in here, but I'm going to tell y'all this story. So I remember one of the times we were teenagers, and Trina, I don't know if you remember, like, for a while you was trying to help me with my algebra. You remember that?
I did.
No. Yeah, but a little bit. You was trying to help me with my algebra. Well, after one of the sessions with Trina, like, a bunch of us were at the church, and we needed to get a ride home. But Trina's sisters, they drove, what are those, Camaros, right? It was that, yeah, Camaro. So, you know, it's not a lot of room. So you got like 4 teenagers trying to get in the back seat of a Camaro. Now, I'm the only girl getting in the car, and I remember we trying to get in the car, and I was just gonna sit on one of the boys' laps. So I remember your mother came over to the car, and she was like, "Oh, no." She was like, "You know, get out. This can't work." She made me get in and made the boys sit on my lap. And I remember, like, I drove home like, oh my God, this is so extra. Like, you know, I just needed somewhere to sit. Like, I remember thinking that all the way, getting a ride home, you know, but whatever Mother Norris said was law. You know, you don't give her no attitude. So I was just like, this is crazy. He was just sitting there, and I'm like, and they were just clowning me all the way home because, you know, he's sitting on my lap. And then now, you know, that I have a daughter, like, I'd be like, oh no, ma'am, like, you know, we not doing that. And when things like that happen, I always go back to, you know, like the things that I was taught growing up. And, you know, in the moments you think like, oh, this is too much. And then when I had kids, I realized some of those things were just the right amount. You know what I'm saying? Like, some of the things, even though they didn't feel good in the moment, they were just the right amount of what I needed. So, you know, I didn't throw away all of those practices when it came, you know, to raising my kids. But I think back to those things too, though. And I am one of those people that, you know, I try to give my kids the things that I didn't get, but not like in the tangible sense all the time. You know, like, we didn't take a lot of family vacations. So, you know, I make sure that we go somewhere once, twice a year. Anytime my husband know, anytime I can squeeze in a trip or grab some money from over here and we can go, we gone. So, you know, like, I try to do those type of things. You know, asking the kids more how they feel about stuff. Mm-hmm. You know, and then listening to how they feel and explain to them, well, right now, you know, I've lived a little bit longer than you. and I can see I have a better viewpoint. So I think we're gonna go with what I said. But I hear, like I hear what you're saying, but that's not the right decision for this situation. So I do try like stuff like that to let them at least express themselves, and I listen or whatever. Most of the time we're gonna go with what I said because because this is just how this hierarchy works. But I do, I try to at least hear them out, and listen to their perspective. So yeah, in some sense, I do try to give them some of the things that I didn't get, but like I feel like some things are like mandatory, like manners. If I let my kids call you Shanetta, how long before they try to call me Samantha? You know what I'm saying? Like if I don't teach them manners with other people, how long before that dog bites me in the behind?
Right.
Like that's kind of how I think about things. I don't know, Vanessa, you want to say something?
No, like the whole time you guys were talking, that was something that I was thinking about. Like, even though there are standards and there are so many things that we want to teach, there still needs to be that safe space. Like they should still, and I didn't have that growing up. You weren't
Right.
finna look, this is what it is. You're gonna shut your mouth. Okay.
Right.
I want your my father, he was such a clown. If I want your opinion, I'll give it to you. Well, wait a minute. I don't really think that's how that's supposed to go. Or like sometimes he was joking around, but like in those instances, like growing up for us, like, oh yeah, you're not finna talk back. You gonna, this is it. My father be, you don't run nothing but your head, and I'll knock that off. Well, okay, well there you have it. You've given my opinion and you've knocked my head off. So like, so with, like with my kids, like we have a lot of in-depth conversations about a lot of different things. And I feel like, sometimes if you just take a few minutes to explain something to them about some decision that you've made or how you got here, you have gained so much ground. Even if you guys still don't agree, sometimes, you just need to be able to let them say, how they got here. Right. So they be able to, like you said, be able to voice their opinion, because they still have to have somebody good to have a good conversation with, get advice. I don't need you asking Big Booty Judy over there about A, B, and D, because right. I don't think that's gonna be the party involved. So, like I know I have pushed, your kids ain't gonna tell you everything, but I definitely feel so much more comfortable with some of the things that I adapted with my kids. Sometimes they say too much. I'd be like, okay, remember, I'm still your mother. I ain't your friend. I'm not your homeboy, But in that same instance, like I feel good knowing that there are some things that they feel comfortable enough to share. And they might sound like, Mom, look, don't be mad. Oh God. In my head, I'm like, how much of my blood pressure do I need to control? How much of my breath to hold? Like, how am I going to be able to deal with whatever they may say? But I still get a good overwhelming feeling knowing that, you know what I'm saying, we're going to have some hard and awkward conversations, but they know, standard boundaries, and they be like, okay, yeah, you probably not. Well, you think I could, you know what, never mind. Don't even worry. Don't even worry about it. It's like, what? No. I was thinking about something, but you know what? I think I already know what you're probably going to say. So we're going to be good in this one. But I do believe that, that safe space, and then having some understanding and being able to have these conversations and explain how we even got here with, why we think how we think, and, what our views are, you know what I'm saying? So
I think it's important. I like what Vanessa was saying, because I think it's important to even become your child's inner voice, to the point in which where even before they can even begin to process, I'm going to go have a conversation with my mom about it, they kind of already have an idea of what you're going to say and where this is going to go, because you've had the conversations with them, because you've opened up the door for them to talk to you and for you to talk back to them. So that helps them to use you as their inner voice versus being out there with their friends and their friends being their inner voices. And then they out here making crazy decisions and they have no recourse. They have no way of explaining it. They're just like, it's just what we do. I was telling a kid this week, like all the impulsive thoughts that you have in your brain don't need to come out into action or things that you say out of your mouth. And he was looking at me like, what? And I was like, we're going to start practicing impulse control. I want you to learn this word. Everything you think in your brain, you don't do with your body. Everything you think in your brain, you don't say with your mouth. It's just not acceptable. And if nobody else is going to teach you this, I only get 60 minutes with you each day, 5 days a week. If I don't teach you nothing else, you're going to learn how to control some of these things that you're doing because this is just not okay. And I think that many kids lack an inner voice that is an adult's voice. They have inner voices. We don't know where they got them from. So, I think it's important that within our communities and within the people that we have access to, because sometimes like it may even be adults that you work with that as you begin to, because like technically they're adults and you may realize nobody ever taught you how to do this. And like you have a whole job, like you're out here working in this world and nobody has, okay, come here. Let me holler at you real quick. Let me whisper some things in your ear that somebody didn't tell you across this life. Cause I don't know what your background is. I don't know what your experiences are, but clearly we're raising adults out here. So, let me help just a little bit. If I can just brighten the corner that I'm standing on by helping you just a tiny bit, here's what we're going to do today.
Yeah, I actually have, I have somebody that I work with and she'd be like, even at home, I could hear you talking to me. Like I'd be ready to say and do. And I'd be like, that's probably, I've had some people in my head when I be ready to say and do something too. So, and she was like, you like one of the first people who ever like didn't just let me get away with saying or doing whatever. Like you hold me accountable. And, I mean, at this stage, that's kind of who I am. Like, sometimes I don't even be trying to be that person, but it's like you be like, did you really just? Yeah. Come on, I'm gonna I'm throwing the flag on the plate, ma'am. Excuse me. Hey, y'all, we gotta no, this is not. And you'll be like, it's really surprising what people are missing in their lives that we had. That we'd be like, oh, soon as I had some kids, they ain't got to eat, they ain't got to do. I'm not gonna say. We got a whole list. They stay up late. If they want to drink, they drink before they eat. They like little stupid stuff that you just grew up with. And now, like for me, a lot of those things now that my dad's not here, like I think about all the standards, all the y'all better be ready or you're gonna get left. And you think that was a good thing? No, well, wait till you get back home and you you missed that ride. Or for me, even being on time and making sure that I'm in certain these are things that today's society a lot of times don't really mean nothing to nobody. You know what I'm saying? Doing chores, like that's helping you grow up to be responsible. It's not only that nasty. It's just this is like, I'm trying to teach you something that you're going to need to do as you get older. So it's like, it's balance. It's a whole lot. And I really do feel like even though we've come so far with maybe technology and different things like that, it's like we took so many steps backwards in the behavioral department where anything goes that, it's like we looking at cars that drive themselves, but you got somebody behind the wheel that, will just say and do whatever. Like, it's like, my son was saying to me the other day, he's like, yo, Mom, this little boy came over, one of his friends, and he had like a piece of a machine gun toy. And I was like, whose clip is this? Like, what? Darren was like, Ma, you remember? We could have water guns. I said, yeah, you wouldn't even really gonna spell gun. That's what you're not gonna have no Nerf gun, no water gun. You're not even gonna use your finger like a gun because I'm gonna have to bend that one backwards, like because we wasn't allowed to have it. You some of the stuff you'd be like, I ain't really sure why we not doing it, but we not doing it.
We just not gonna do it.
Not. Okay, don't. Next topic.
Well, I think you said an extremely important word. You said accountability. And I think a lot of this stems from that very thing. And I'm going to blame the parents, even back to our generation. I remember there have been times where, in my house, I would get upset about something, whether it was, the ridiculous curfew or, whatever I thought. And all I'd be thinking, was, oh, I can't wait till I move out of here. Or hearing, well, when you're 18, you can move out of here and do whatever you want. And I think sometimes those messages are the ones that got stuck with people. Because, they really thought that they really think that I became 18, I can do whatever I want. Or your parents telling you, oh, well, go somewhere and pay your own rent and do whatever you want where you pay rent. You know what I'm saying? And I think those messages really stuck with people. Like, I'm ever so careful when I'm talking to my kids, and I remind them, that's fine. You can get older. You can move out. You can go to the other side of the world. But no matter where you go, you're going to be accountable to somebody. There's always going to be rules. Somebody is going to be telling you what to do. So you might as well get used to this. There's always rules. There's rules everywhere. There's rules in this house. There's rules outside this house. As you get older, you'll learn to appreciate the ones in this house because the ones outside the house are much less forgiving. You know what I'm saying? When you break the ones out there, there's a greater consequence. So I'm always telling my kids that, but I realize accountability is a big thing. And I wanted the conversation to kind of lead that way, but I knew it was a big, wide, whatever. So I'm thinking next week, we'll kind of talk more about the accountability piece. And kind of, who are we accountable to in 2023? And then is everybody accountable to somebody? Because we can clearly look and see there's several spaces where people are lacking accountability, but it's definitely going to be something that we talk about on the next show. Because I don't want to just keep talking and talking and talking. We try to keep everything down to an hour. I know sometimes people have a short attention span. I don't even running up time on your night. You don't want to hear us talk. So that will be our next conversation, kind of talking about the accountability piece and, what that really looks like in 2023, personally and collectively. All of us, I believe, have, some of us have connected circles and some of us have, separate circles, and just talking about our personal accountability, the accountability within our village. I know people that'd be like, oh, Sam, you did what? I don't think that was a good move. Does everybody have those people? Does everybody have somebody that really just has your best interest and wants you to be your best self? So we're definitely going to tackle all of that on the next show. We do appreciate you guys tuning in. Ladies, did you want to have any final words before I wrap up? Okay, so I'm sure you guys have heard the varying opinions and whether or not things change, definitions. The reality is the definition of a word does not change. When you look up, you can look up, a dog in a dictionary from the 1940s to a dog in a dictionary today. A dog is still going to be, a dog. So I don't believe the actual definition of the word changes, but like Shanetta said, the connotation of the word, can definitely change. And then society plays a huge part. And I think we need to, reclaim some of our own personal space. We live, we're living in this world that I think sometimes is just too enlarged, because we're living in social media, we're living in Instagram and Facebook and TikTok. And I think sometimes people need to narrow the space that they live in and kind of be grounded a little more. But again, that's just my personal opinion. But I thank you guys for watching. We are on every Thursday at 8 p.m. So until next week, stay safe. Thank you guys. Where was it?
Thank you for watching.